Hey guys, I'm back, and this time we're going to be doing an audio commentary for Episode 4 of Island of Dwarfs. Now, of course, this is a completely different way to how I actually originally filmed it, so I may as well just explain how it was originally supposed to be done. Now, this scene here was actually supposed to be filmed a bit lower on the backyard, but instead I figured, how about I film up in the what I would call the top area of my backyard, where, as you can see, the plants look a lot more different than the ones that you see in episodes 1 through 3. Now, how this was supposed to be done was, it was actually supposed to be Soros and Tyrannos that were supposed to be hunting together, as opposed to Soros hunting on his own, like in episode 2 where we followed Sphinx, the juvenile dwarf Spinosaurus. And also, this is the first episode that actually has a fade in, fade out sort of thing for, like, the basically fades in and then it fades out at the end. Like, fades in the beginning and fades out at the end. Sorry. And yep, this is what was supposed to happen here was that Soros and Tyrannos were supposed to be going after the juvenile Ankylosaurus. And what was supposed to happen there was, essentially what happens is that, as you see here, the mother Ankylosaurus picks up the scent, except that in the original sequence that was supposed to be done, Soros was unable to catch the baby Ankylosaurus, and all that was left, or the only one that was left to try and take it on, was Tyrannos. But since Tyrannos was quite young, and the back of the neck of the juvenile Ankylosaurus was still too thick for Tyrannos' teeth to pierce through, so they basically wound up giving up on the hunt. Now here, let me just pause this for a sec. Now, what was supposed to happen here was that originally Soros and Tyrannos head back to where Roberta is sleeping, so that way she can teach them how to hunt again. Basically, it would have been a repeat of what was shown in the end of episode 1, except with a bit of a twist, where you see this buffalo here would actually be the main target, much like how Soros did in this episode, except that first Tyrannos would try to distract the buffalo from the front, and then Tyrannos would have tried attacking it from the rear. Unfortunately for both, Tyrannos almost gets gored by the buffalo's horns, and Soros almost gets kicked in the face by the buffalo's hind legs. So Roberta, what she wound up doing, or at least in my head, was that she would basically bite down onto the buffalo's spine, essentially paralyzing it in one bite. And then all three of them would have wound up eating it alive. But unfortunately, I got rid of the recording on accident because I thought that when I did all the footage, I thought that it would have been saved on the KinMaster app when I put all the clips in, and then I just deleted them off the phone. Turns out that's not how it's done. So I wasted an entire day's worth of filming and deleted it for nothing. So then I had to reshoot it into what you see for this episode. Also, the dwarf Ankylosaurus, or not the dwarf Ankylosaurus, the omnivorous Nodosaur that makes an appearance again in this episode, would actually have just waited its turn for Soros, Tyrannos, and Roberta to leave the carcass of the buffalo behind to feed on the scraps. Now, actually, the real reason why Soros is still with the family is that I included in the description of this episode was that actually when Roberta was badly injured by Pharaoh in the flashback and Tyrannos was newly hatched, it was basically Soros that did all the work until she recovered enough to where she could hunt for both her sons. And I figured I'd also add in, a sequence where, Soros is essentially, he's proving himself worthy as the next king of the island of dwarfs among the dwarf Tyrannosaur line. or I should not dwarf tyrannosaur line, not that. I mean like among the dwarf tyrannosaurs on the island as the males, like the kings. Whereas obviously Roberta is a very old queen. And I also figured that when I added in the music for the episode, like, or for this choice of music, when Soros takes on the buffalo, it's supposed to represent, like, he's he's becoming he's coming to prominence as a future king. That's basically what that music, when he kills the buffalo, is supposed to represent. And of course, even though this omnivorous nodosaur is roughly Soros' size, if not slightly larger, because of his, because of the fact that he's doing something that his mother used to do when she was protecting her sons from predators, or driving them off their kills, or protecting her kill from other scavengers. He's basically done what she did in the past. That's what Soros did there. And I also like how instead of going back down to his family, he actually decides to sleep up here, up on this area, all by himself for the very first time, which again shows that he's becoming more of a nomad as he's getting older. He's spending a bit less time away from his family and wanting to, he's also wanting to distance himself from his family since, in any case, even if his mother, oh, sorry, I did not mean to do that bit, but in any case, even though what happens in episode 5 is what happens anyways, Roberta would have just died of old age anyways, since she's over 29 years old in this series before she dies in the finale. And same goes for Pharaoh. Like, essentially, when they died of old age, their sons would have been left on their own regardless. And even if they didn't die of old age, they would have kicked their sons out of their territory when they got old enough. Like Tyrannos, he would have been kicked out right before Roberta would have died of old age, whereas Tyrannos would have still stayed with his mom until she died. And then you could say that if Tyrannos then was gonna, look for his brother again, look for his brother Soros, Soros would still accept him as, family. He would just, be a brother in arms, if you will. Kind of like how with male lions or male cheetahs, they gather in loose coalitions of 2 to 5 males and essentially stick together for life until they come across a pride to take over. In the case for lions, anyways. For male cheetahs, they stick together to essentially hold on to a territory long enough before they're essentially either kicked out or they lose a member or two. Well, this is episode 4, and I'll see you next time for episode 5. See you later.